This is going to be a brief overview of the WSAR CE coming up at the end of May. We're going to be doing a land nav course in the Barton Creek Greenbelt. It's going to include getting lowered if you're a GR person, or doing a rappel if you have your rope tech off of Whiteface, which is also known as the urban assault wall. So you're going to need to bring the things to do that. You will use several different position formats, which include what 3 words, lat long, USNG. You'll have to shoot an Azimuth. It'll be pretty straightforward for this CE, and you'll use terrain feature mapping. The course should take about an hour. I think a crew that's pretty squared away might even be able to do it in about 30 minutes, or if you're not as frosty as maybe you could be, it's going to take you longer. Logistics, things that you need to think about when you're preparing your bags. You'll need to take your tech bag with water, snacks, and your personal rope gear to sustain yourself in the greenbelt for the planned duration. Be sure and plan for contingencies if you end up being stuck down there for a little bit longer. If you're not issued a rope tech, you've only got GR, or you're slotted for GR, take one of the blue full body harnesses off the truck. For anybody on your crew that's from out of battalion, scratch them up a helmet from the station and grab them a blue full body harness off the rig, because all members on the crew are either going to get lowered off of Whiteface or will rappel. For the rappel and or the 2-rope lower at the top of Whiteface, the ropes will be pre-rigged to save a bunch of time, so you don't need to bring any ropes or rigging gear or any of that kind of stuff with you. And I would also possibly encourage you to leave your personal rope behind and just save that weight. Though you will need an ASAP and Cirrus for each rope tech that will be rappelling, so be sure and grab those off your apparatus before you leave the 360 access point. The course itself, each point that you get to will have a marker. That marker will be flagged off. It'll be pretty apparent. There's going to be an information card on that marker. On that information card, it will talk about the various features of that target hazard. It'll give you the best access point to get there if you were trying to make it there from somewhere else, and the best place to take a litter patient out if that's what needed to happen. And then lastly, it'll tell you where your next point of navigation is. As far as transportation goes, this will be a little complicated, but hopefully you'll understand the method to the madness. But each unit from each station will go separately, and you're actually going to go a couple hours apart, or correction, an hour and a half apart. We will have one unit showing up every 30 minutes. The first unit that is going from a given station in the day, take the SAR and your apparatus to the 360 access point. There you're going to drop your apparatus there. Leave it, we'll have an instructor kind of loiter in the area to keep an eye on it. From there, hop in the SAR and go to the Bluff View access point. When you get to the Bluff View access point, that is a residential neighborhood, there's some construction going on in the area, try to park the SAR out of the way and leave the keys with the SAR. Put the keys in the fuel cap. That way anybody else that needs to move it or get a hold of it can do so. From that point, you'll proceed to the what 3 words location, axed, flashing, desk. Just enter those into what 3 words and follow your navigation to the top of Whiteface. You'll have to navigate some smaller trails, so you may not be able to just straight line from the access point to Whiteface, but if you stick to the trails, you'll be able to sort it out pretty quick. The second crew that shows up from a given station, you should be scheduled about an hour and a half to 2 hours apart from the other crew that's coming from your house. You'll need to first go to the Bluff View access point to receive the SAR. The keys should be in the fuel cap. From there, you're going to drive to the 360 access point with both the SAR and your apparatus. Drop your apparatus at the 360 access point, and then return to the Bluff View access point and the SAR. Again, leave the keys in the fuel cap. From that point, proceed to the what 3 words location, axed, flashing, desk, and you should get there pretty quick. When you finish the course, back at your apparatus, you're going to need to go back and retrieve the SAR once you're done. Land navigation. The first point that you're going to go to is going to be going there via a what 3 words. That's going to be the top of Whiteface. From that point, on the information card, it'll give you your second point, which will be navigated using a USNG coordinate. The third point, you're going to shoot an azimuth and a distance. Don't sweat it too much. Really, the only thing you need to make sure you have squared away is how to shoot an azimuth, so you know the direction you need to go. It's going to be just a short distance to the next feature. The fourth point that you're going to go to will be navigated using a lat long. From that point, again, you'll shoot an azimuth and a distance to get to the fifth point. Again, very short distance between those two. And then to get to the sixth point, you're going to use that by finding the target hazard using a mapping program. So just typing that into your phone or your GPS program or using a map, and you'll navigate to that last point. That last point is very near the 360 access point, which is where your apparatuses are, and you can then proceed to your truck to head on back to the house. Few reminders. What 3 words? About 50% of the time we get what 3 words from dispatch. The other 50% of the time we get something else. You can just use the What 3 Words app. It has a built-in compass feature, as they call it, that will give you an arrow that points towards your destination. USNG, U.S. National Grid. Why are we even doing this? Well, one, Texas Task Force 1 uses it. Military aircraft use it. FEMA has established it as the SAR format of choice. So anytime you work in some sort of large-scale event, you're likely to run into USNG. But it does work in Google. So you can just type the coordinates into Google. The key there to know is to not put any spaces into the coordinate format. Lat long. The other 50% of the time we seem to get lat long from dispatch instead of a what 3 words. But there are 3 different lat long formats: degrees.degrees, degrees minutes.minutes, and degrees minutes and seconds.seconds. So just being able to recognize those 3 and enter those 3 appropriately into whatever mapping program you're using. You can enter these directly into Google. Just as a reminder, when you're entering the northing format or the northing portion of the coordinate, be sure and put a minus before the numbers. Otherwise, you'll end up in China. So as example, negative 097.23456. And then another note is that lat long is used by civilian aircraft. As far as shooting a compass, azimuth, and distance, this is the analog version of land navigation. It's the original land navigation. It can help you understand the fundamentals of land navigation. For this course, it will not be complicated. You'll just need to shoot an azimuth in the distance. To do it properly, you would shoot an azimuth, send a member in the distance, make sure they're lined up on the azimuth, and then proceed to the point where that person is standing. In order to measure distance, you can pace count. If you're into that and you know how to do that, give it a go. But you will not need to pace count for this course. Generically, you're just going to need to know the azimuth that you're going to head, and you'll run right into the next point. We're going to do a quick review of how to shoot an azimuth with a compass. On your rigs, you've got base place compasses, or some of you fancy guys might have a compass with a mirror called an orienteering compass. So the way you shoot an azimuth, and we'll talk about the base plate first, is we'll give you an azimuth. So if you look here, I'm going to say 200 degrees. And so if you watch here, I'm going to dial the bezel until I get 200 degrees. Once I get 200 degrees, I've got a red side of the arrow and a black, and you'll see inside the bezel there's a red boxed in arrow in the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the compass until the red arrow is inside the red box. A lot of people call that putting red Fred in the shed. And once red Fred is in the shed, the arrow on the end of the base plate compass points towards your azimuth. So the way you would use that in the field is you dial your bearing in. You're gonna kind of put this thing square in front of you where your elbows are kind of to your side in this thing. Your arms make a triangle, so this is square in front of you. And then I'm gonna rotate my body until red Fred's in the shed. Once red Fred is in the shed, I'm gonna look where that arrow points, and where that arrow points in the distance is your azimuth. And so from this point, you would run one of your crewmates out as far as you can see them, tell them to hold up there. They're on the path, and then the crew can go to that point, and you could shoot another one and just keep on going. For the CE, you're not going to have to go that far. Generically, you just need to know the direction that you're headed. If you end up using an orienteering compass, Same thing, you dial 200 degrees in. Once you get 200 degrees dialed in, what you're going to do is bring this up, fold the mirror back where you can see the bezel in the mirror. Once you see the bezel in the mirror, you rotate around until red Fred is in the shed. Once red Fred is in the shed, you can use either the lower sights or the upper sights to be able to sight in the distance and get a little bit more accurate azimuth. So as you guys work in the field, you're going to need to be able to shoot azimuth. And then lastly, terrain feature mapping. For this, you can pull up prominent locations. You can find those on paper maps. You can use computers or phone-based mapping programs, find those prominent features or those terrain features, and then you can navigate there. You can navigate there either by terrain association and just following known trails, known paths to get to that point. Or you can use the quote compass navigation feature of your phone or GPS program and just follow the arrow to the location. Some things that I would encourage you all to do to prepare for the CE is brush up on your coordinate systems, pull especially your new members around and review how these coordinate systems work, how to enter them into your different programs. Pick an app for navigation or brush up on your favorite one. Some examples of those: Google, Mill GPS, Terrain Navigator Pro, Motion X, and SoLocator, but there's 1,000 of them. Or you can use the GPSs in the trucks, or some of you may have your own GPSs you prefer to use. And then if you want to go the extra mile, you can download a Greenbelt map from FireNet off of the Parks Map link and or create your own maps that can have USNG grid lines or light long grid lines for you. So I hope this helps you prepare. We'll see you at the end of May.